Welcome, everyone. Thank you very much for joining. I'm excited to see so many of you here, and I'm excited for you to see Retool agents and how easy they are to build. My name is Elliot Katz. I'm the head of technical customer experience for the EMEA region at Retool. I'm joined by my colleague Nathan Hamill, one of our expert solutions engineers. He's going to be taking you through the main part of the session. But first, I wanted to give a bit of an introduction and explain why I'm so excited about Retool agents and how they fit into the way that we're thinking more broadly about AI at Retool. So I joined Retool only about a month ago to lead the technical customer experience organization, which includes all of our customer-facing technical and consulting teams. And although I am quite new to Retool, I've been working for many years to enable businesses to successfully adopt AI technologies. Most recently, I was leading a customer success function at UiPath. So I already have a great deal of experience, not just with the adoption of AI and agents, but also more broadly with how do we connect technology to business systems, business data, and business people in a way that's valuable, but also reliable and safe. So why am I so excited about Retool agents and our approach to AI? Our strategy at Retool is we want to scale the impact of AI across your organization by building what we're calling the application layer for AI. And when we talk about an application layer, what we mean really is the place where humans and technology engage with each other. And that's what an application is, really. And it's what Retool has always been focused on, being the application layer for businesses. And now we're thinking about what does it mean to be an application layer in the AI age? So we think about this in three different ways. The first one is AI for builders. So when your builders and developers are building applications in Retool, you have access to AI features that make it even easier and even quicker than it is today to build those applications. And we already give you the ability to generate queries with AI, but very soon you'll be able to generate whole applications thanks to our AI Copilot, which is currently in preview, but coming out very, very soon. We're excited for you to see it. The second is AI for end users. So this is how we enable you to embed AI into the applications that you're building to give the users of those applications access to AI functionality and AI experiences. And the third way, which is really what we'll be looking at more closely today, is how do we bring agents and AI workflows to enable AI to reason about your business processes and make decisions about what actions to take and which systems and people to interact with to do useful work. And of course, all of this sits on top of our existing platform. So you have access to all the integrations and security and governance features that we already offer. So what is it about Retool agents particularly that makes them so valuable? What we enable you to do with Retool agents is to build effective agents really incredibly quickly, in a matter of hours or even less than an hour, as you'll see today. And we achieve this with a few key pillars you can see here, and which you're also going to see as we go through the session. The first is the platform. So we let you easily connect all your data sources and APIs to your agents, and also to use whichever AI models you want to use to be most effective. The second is the tools. We give you a whole load of out-of-the-box tools, but we also enable you to build custom reusable workflows and queries and functions, which you can give to your agents to make them more powerful and let them interact with whatever systems they need to do useful work. The third is observability. It's not enough for an agent to do great work. You have to know what it's doing. So we give you all the tools that you need to see what your agents are doing, to verify that they're doing what you expect them to do, to audit the actions that they take, and to see how much they're costing you as well. And finally, all of this comes with all of the enterprise-grade features and guardrails that make Retool the platform of choice for our customers today. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Nathan, who's going to take you through how to build a really valuable Retool agent and how these pillars look in action. I hope you enjoy it. Go ahead, Nathan.
Thank you, Elliot. And thank you, everyone, for joining today. I'm going to start by walking you through what our end goal is, right? So as the name of the event suggests, we're going to build a customer support agent from scratch. And what we want the agent to be able to do is basically deal with three different types of requests. So one of them being a refund for a specific order, another being just generic customer feedback, and the third being somebody asking how long it might take for their order to be delivered or what the status of their order is. So this is a finished kind of interaction with the agent, and I just wanted to show you this to speak a little bit to the reasoning and tool calling capabilities that Elliot mentioned. So when I ask to get a refund for my order, and for example, I'm threatening to leave a bad review, the top level customer support agent is actually going to delegate the task to an agent that is specialized in dealing with refunds. That refund agent is going to fetch some details about the order that the customer is asking about. It's going to read a policy to basically decide what the outcome of this request should be. And based on that outcome, it's going to actually feed back kind of its judgment to that top level agent. So in this case, it says that it needs to be reviewed by a human, in which case the top level agent is going to fetch some information about approvers and escalate via Slack due to the threat made by the customer. And then finally update the relevant tables. What you might notice with the tables is that actually it's doing this dynamically. So it has access to our database. And once again, like Elliot mentioned, we want you to be able to leverage all the kind of data connections and integrations that you have existing in Retool and that you kind of trust Retool to have access to. So our agent has access to our Retool database, and it's actually going to fetch the schema of the tables and make sure it selects kind of the right columns to query. And then it's going to write its own SQL to update the table based on the decision that's been made. And finally, assuming that a lot of customer support use cases kind of come through email, it's actually going to reply to the email that the person initially sent. Right. Elliot also spoke a little bit to how we want to be the app layer for AI. So what we've done is built a kind of companion application that can go with this agent. So it's a very lightweight application where somebody can log in and see their existing orders, speak to the support agent directly from the application, and then kind of look at their existing support tickets as well. So if everyone is ready, please join me in going to the agents page in the Retool instance that you all should have access to. And what we're going to do is create a new agent. So if everyone can go ahead and create a new agent and select the start from scratch option, and then maybe just give it your name. So I'm going to put Nathan Webinar Agent. And give it a nice icon as well. Once you hit create, you should be taken to this configuration page. And I'll just give you all a minute to make sure that everyone is able to get here. Drop a message in the chat if you're having any issues. Great. So what you might notice in this configuration page, or the first thing that we have to deal with, is the configuration of how this agent can actually be triggered. And then the instructions, or you might be more familiar with the term a system prompt, that's going to define the agent's behavior, how it should interact with the end user, and how it should deal with different situations. So one thing we do want to do off the bat is add email as a trigger, which is automatically going to update the system prompt and tell it how to basically reply to an email and in which situations. Not shown here are the other triggers that you can have. So of course, we showed that we can integrate the agent directly with our application. So trigger it from a Retool app, and trigger it from a workflow as well if you want that kind of full remote automation application in that sense. I think this speaks to Elliot's point as well, that we're really building on Retool as a platform, and we're able to have all the different aspects of the Retool product basically interact with each other to be able to kind of solve a wide range of use cases that you might need agents for. I see a question in the chat about which agent to pick. So yeah, if everyone can just create an agent from scratch and just give it their name, and I'll just give it a couple of seconds again before we start writing the system prompt. Great. So the first thing that we want to do is actually tell the agent how to solve a task that it might not need to do any kind of complicated tool calling for, right? And that might be something that we have a very defined process for, which might be something like how long does an order take to get delivered based on kind of the class of delivery that the person has selected. So, and I'm going to drop this in the chat because it's a bit long to write out, but hopefully you can all just copy and paste it into your agent. I'm seeing an ask to zoom in. Does that look better for everyone? Great. So what I'm going to do for this first use case is just paste in that kind of definition of how long orders typically take to be delivered. Okay, and I'll just zoom a little bit more. Hopefully that's better now, and you can kind of read everything that's on the screen. And then the other two situations, which are the ones that require customer feedback, and the customer feedback and the refund request, are going to be situations where we actually need to ask the agent to interact with the tools that we're going to give it. So maybe in a situation where you're building the agents yourselves and it's not kind of pre-planned like this, you might build the tools first and then come back to the prompt to explain how the agent should use those tools. In this case, we know which tools we're going to add to the agent, so we can already kind of describe to it how it should use those tools. So the first thing I'm going to tell it how to do is how to deal with a refund. And this is where the agent is actually going to delegate that task to another agent. So I'm going to say, and I'll paste this in the chat as well just after, so don't worry about kind of keeping up as I type. But I'm telling the agent to call the refund agent if the request is about a refund. I'm also going to tell it to get the schema of the orders table. And this is actually maybe something that I should have shown, but I'll just quickly show you the data that we're working with. So this is kind of order data for a fictional e-commerce company. So what the agent needs to do is get the schema of the Superstore orders table. And then we're going to tell it to write its own SQL query to update the row of the order that has been asked to get refunded. So a SQL query to update the order IDs row based on the refund agent's decision or judgment. And so what I find really exciting here is that we're getting that full communication between agents, right? So the refund agent is going to act completely independently, but then basically pass the information or judgment back up to that top level agent. And let me just paste that in the chat so it's quicker for everyone. I see a question about connecting to Postgres. After we finish the instructions, we're going to look at what the tools look like and how you will indeed basically be able to connect it to your Postgres. For the general customer feedback, I'm just going to paste that in because I don't think you need to see me kind of type. And I have been called out for a typo. Thank you. So I just pasted in another kind of sentence for the general customer feedback. I see a question to post the initial part of the prompt. This one should be auto-populated when you created the agent. So maybe if you tick email, that's where it explains how it should interact with an email. Great. I'm going to give everyone a second to finalize their instructions, but I will quickly talk about what the other configuration options are before we get to the tools. So I can select any model I like. In this case, we have some out-of-the-box models that Retool provides on cloud. Or in many of your cases, what would happen is that you would bring your own LLM or bring your own API key that connects you to one of these models. And I'm actually going to choose a quick model so that when we're testing it out and chatting with it, it should be nice and fast. The temperature is going to decide effectively the randomness of the agent's response or the LLM's response based on the queries that come in. So a high temperature means that the same question from a user might get a different response every time. Of course, if this is something we're exposing to customers, we actually want the ability to choose a low temperature and just to make sure that we can trust that the way we've tested it is the way that customers are going to interact with it as well. The maximum number of iterations is going to define, if I just come back to that kind of finished prompt that I showed you, each one of these reasoning steps and then a tool call is defined as an iteration. So for now, we're building a simple agent, and we shouldn't expect that the maximum number of iterations should go above 10. So we're just going to leave that as is. Great. I'm going to give that just 1 minute before we get to what I find the most exciting part of Retool agents, which are the tools and the ability to have your agent call your API connections, database connections, or any integration that you might have. So if no one's having any issues, and if you are, please do drop them in the chat. I'm going to go ahead and create my first tool. So if everyone clicks this Add Tool button, you should be taken to this screen where you see all the different options for connecting tools. Now you'll have a list of out-of-the-box tools that we've provided within Retool to help you build faster. But what we're going to be doing today, and what will probably be of most interest, granted I've seen some questions about connecting to Postgres and Zendesk and other systems like that, we're going to be creating a new custom tool. But before I go ahead and do that, I do want to just point out that we also give you the ability to connect to any MCP servers that you might have access to. You can use your existing workflows as tools. So if some of you have already automations using Retool workflows, you can now allow an agent to basically orchestrate those workflows for you. And of course, and what we'll see in a little bit, is the ability to call another agent. So you can have this kind of agent-to-agent communication and basically build agents that are very good at specific tasks, and then have an orchestrating agent delegate kind of the top level customer request. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and create a new custom tool. And the first tool that I want to create, and obviously a very important one for the customer support agent, is the ability to fetch the order details about the order that the customer is asking about. So we're going to call this get order. And we're going to just give it a description that's going to get passed in as context to the agent. So the description just helps the agent, even on top of the system prompt, understand when it should be calling which tools. So this one's very straightforward. We can just say fetch details about the order. You might notice that you can check this box that's going to require user confirmation before use. We're not going to use this for this tool, but I just wanted to point it out because if you're giving your agent the ability to, let's say, read or even write back to a sensitive production database, you might want to have that added layer of trust where you require someone with some level of authority to actually approve the agent to use that tool before it does. So we want you to be able to trust that your agent isn't kind of going rogue and doing things that it shouldn't be doing, especially if it's a particularly sensitive connection. We have the ability to add parameters. So in this case, we have, and I'll just show the table again, for each order, if I scroll across, we have an ID, and we want to pass that order ID in. Oops. So that the agent can actually query the database based on the ID that the user might provide. And we're going to make this a number. Again, you can provide a description that's going to be passed in as context to the agent. In this case, it's actually not necessary, I think, because the LLM is capable of understanding that the order ID should be the order ID. Okay. So if everyone's still with me, and I'll just check the chat. Right. I'm going to go ahead and edit the function. And this is where we actually build the tool itself, right? And if any of you have used Retool workflows before, you might notice that this in itself looks like effectively a mini workflow. Now, the great thing about that is that it comes with all the flexibility and kind of customization that Retool workflows come with. So here, if I go to add a new block, again, I can see that I can query one of my resources or one of my integrations. I can write fully custom JavaScript or Python code if there needs to be some kind of data processing step. I can call another workflow or perform an AI action as well. In that resource query, I see a lot of questions about, like, could we connect to this service or this database? Here you can connect to any of the data integrations that you have within Retool. So you might see familiar connections like Snowflake or Databricks, your PostgreSQL, or anything that you don't see out of the box, you can kind of connect to via API as well. But in this case, I just want you to select Retool database, and you should all have access to this. And you can see here that we can write our custom SQL here. So this kind of SQL query can be as simple or as complex as you need it to be. I do want to point out that one of the tools that we're going to build also allows the agent to write its own SQL query. So again, it's up to you the level of autonomy effectively that you give to the agent. But if it's something like fetching details about an order where it's kind of always going to be same query run, and it's quite straightforward, we might as well kind of write it ourselves here. So the first thing I'm going to do is put in an example value so that I can test out my SQL query. And then I'm going to write my query here. So I'm going to select the entire row from my table Superstore orders where the order ID, the ID is equal to the provided order ID in the parameters. So you can see, again, if many of you are familiar with Retool and the double curly brace notation, we can kind of access the value of the parameters throughout the tool as we build it. So I'm going to drop this in the chat as well, just in case anyone is having any issues. And I'm going to call this just get order. And I'm going to run this block just to test it. So it should use that ID that I provided here. And yeah, you can see that it correctly fetched kind of all the details about the order with ID 4841. I'm going to hit done here. I just want everybody to make sure that once they've done building that tool, just to hit save, because if you click back, you will lose your progress. So please hit save when you're done with the tool. And we can go ahead and build a couple of the other tools that are kind of essential to making this agent work. Right. So the next thing that we want to be able to do is give the agent the ability to write its own SQL queries against the table that we're working with so that it can kind of dynamically update it. So we need two tools in order to do that, right? We need to get the table schema first so that the agent knows kind of how it should write the SQL query. And then we need a tool where it can actually execute that SQL against the database. So I'm actually going to go a little bit faster here, but I'll kind of paste everything in the chat as I go along as well, just in case people are having issues. So once again, I'm going to create a new custom tool. I'm going to call this get table schema. And again, in the description, I'm just going to say get the table schema. The agent should be able to figure that out itself. And in the parameter, we need to provide a table name so that it actually knows what it's getting the schema for. Oops. I'm again going to edit my function. And in this case, I'm just going to copy paste and send this to everyone there as well. So in the chat now, you should see, again, sorry, I'll add in a block that accesses the Retool database, and I can paste in this query that if I expand it, will basically kind of fetch the schema for a specific table. And again, I can add an example value that I'm going to test this out with. So if I do Superstore orders, if I run this, I should be able to see the schema of the Superstore orders table. Now, the point of this, right, is to allow the agent to be a little bit more autonomous and to basically deduce from the columns and the data types that it has access to how it should write the SQL that it's going to execute against the table. And finally, the tool that we're going to create is the one that allows the agent to execute that SQL, right? So once again, I'm going to add a new tool. I'm going to create a new custom tool. And I'm going to call this, I'm going to call this just update table. If you wanted the agent to execute read SQL against the database as well, you could just call this like interact with table, right? And make it extremely generic. Again, adding another layer of autonomy to the agent. In the description, I'm going to say this is for you to execute the update SQL query. And the parameter here is actually going to be the SQL string that the agent writes itself. I go into edit my function, and for the last time, we're going to add this Retool database logic block. And all we're going to pass in, again, we're using that double curly brace notation. We're just going to pass in that SQL string that the agent has written. And that's us done for the update table tool. So once again, I'm going to hit done, and I'm going to save that. So those are the 3 custom tools that we're going to build today. And of course, just dealing with kind of the most basic set of possible customer queries. But the last tool that I want us to connect is actually not going to be a custom tool. It's going to be this use agent tool. And down here, I should have a drop down of all the different possible agents that I can give my agent access to. So I'm going to choose the refund agent. And if everybody should be able to connect the refund agent to their own agent as well. And in the description, I can just say agent to deal with refund requests. I'm just going to drop the param into the chat if anybody else missed that piece as well. So it should just be params.sql in double curly braces. Great. And so when I'm connecting another agent, right, that's all the configuration I need to do, because that other agent is already built and set up and already knows how to use its tools. So I'm going to hit save. And when I do, I also do just want to open up that agent and show you what it looks like. So again, very simple refund agent that's going to read the company's refund policy, which we have here in a Google Doc. And actually, since there were so many questions about kind of other connectors rather than just the Retool database, I can show you what this looks like. So this is kind of the Google Drive Open API integration. And we're able to just make that API call like we would outside of the agents builder, in whether it be in apps or workflows. So the agent is actually going to fetch that document, and it's going to read through the policy, which I think we can see here in the final built agent. And it's going to perform a reasoning step. And I might need to zoom in a bit here. So we can see that the agent is actually taking the policy that it's read and making some kind of judgment against the policy. So this one says this needs to be escalated because the customer has made that threat, but the actual order itself, the refund can be approved because the value is under $50. So now if I come back to the agent that I'm building, I should be able to see these 5 tools in the configuration. Of course, there are lots of kind of maybe more complex complex, more interesting tool calls and integrations that you can leverage as you start building out your own agents. But just in the interest of time today, we're covering off kind of the most basic ones. And I'll just wait there for a minute in case anyone has any issues or questions. Okay, so if I go to the update table, I should have a parameter just called SQL, which is a string. And I should have just that Retool database logic block that references the params.sql. Let me know if you're still having any issues on that one. So I see a question about opening the document. So this should be, yeah. So if you want to add the refund agent, you should be able to add tool and then go to use agent. And it should appear in this drop down if you just search for it. Let me know if you're having any issues seeing it in this drop down. Then it might be a permission issue. Great. Okay, so now that we have the basis of our agent built, so now that we have the basis of our agent built, we can go into this kind of chat sandbox and actually start interacting with it, right? I do think there was a question about an order ID. So in the get order, if you actually mark the order ID as a required parameter, it should come back to you and ask you to provide it if you haven't. Okay. So yeah, in the chat, I can try out something like, and let's take an example from the database. Oops. If I sort this by the latest ones. Oops. If I take order number 1270 and I say 1270 arrived broken and I need a refund, we can then start to see what the agent kind of process looks like, right? So in this case, the agent provides that first reasoning step, and then it tells us which tool it needs to call. So it knows that the customer is asking about a refund, so it's going to delegate the task to the refund agent. When the refund agent is called, we can also see a breakdown of what that agent is doing. So you can see that the refund agent is still running, but it's kind of completing its tools here. While we're waiting for it to finish thinking, I'm just going to check if there's any issues in the chat. Great. So the refund agent read the refund policy and basically said this can actually be auto-approved because it's only $12.48. And in our policy, it says that that is eligible for a refund. Furthermore, there was no kind of threat of a bad review being left. So that judgment gets returned to our top level table, which is just going to fetch a table schema and then update our table. And we might need to fix that it's replying to an email when it hasn't been emailed in the first place, right? So this is why this kind of testing chat sandbox is so useful, because I can go back to my configuration and just say, add something like, never reply to an email if you are not triggered by email. Right. And on that topic, we're actually going to move on to evaluation. So Elliot spoke a little bit about how we're trying to build this platform where you can continually test, monitor, and observe the behavior of your agents so that you have them kind of production ready and you can trust their behavior, right? So if I try another chat where I do something really generic, like I had a bad experience on your website, we know that this should just get logged into the table as a generic customer feedback, right? And what we're actually going to do, if you're all able to follow along with me, is go to this datasets tab. And datasets are going to be basically groups of evaluations that you can run your agent against every time you make changes, let's say, and you want to compare it to a set of expected outputs. So I would create a data set for each scenario that the agent might have to deal with. So the first one I'm going to do is customer feedback. I could also create one called refunds that should deal with that should evaluate how the agent is dealing with refund requests, and etc. And it's kind of up to you how you split up these data sets, but I think that's a logical way to do it. But what I think is really great about the platform offering that we have is that with other agent platforms that I've used, to build those evaluations, you kind of need to anticipate before you build your agent what those evaluations might need to look like. In Retool, as you're building your agent and you're interacting with it in this kind of chat sandbox, you can actually hit these three dots. I'll just check the chat as well. Great. I can hit these three dots and add this as an evaluation. I'm going to add this to the customer feedback data set. And if this was like a full back and forth conversation with the agent, it would add all of this context automatically based on that conversation. And what I can do is either judge its final answer. So I can judge whether it matches exactly a final response that I would expect, maybe some similarity with a sample response. I can do some data structure validation, or I can actually use another LLM as a judge for my agent's response. So in the case of our customer support agent, we might want something like an LLM that judges if our agent's response is kind, helpful, and reassuring. And then basically another LLM would give our agent a score based on that prompt. But in this case, we actually want to check that when it gets this generic customer feedback, it's calling the correct tool. And that would be starting by getting the table schema, because this is one of those dynamic prompts. And we can actually check that it's passing into the tool call the correct parameters. So for this, I'm going to say that it needs to kind of pass in that superstore order name as the parameter for this tool call. And once I hit create, that now exists in my customer feedback dataset. And if I go to this evals tab, if everyone sees that, I can actually go ahead and run all my evaluations. So customer feedback evaluation. And when I run that, it's going to run that example prompt. Oh, and it failed. So I know that I actually have to go and make a change to my agent to make sure next time it passes that evaluation. But as you start to build kind of more complex, I don't know why. Sorry, I'm just refreshing. I must have created the same data set twice. As you start to build more complex agents and you need to continuously monitor the different use cases and how it responds to those use cases, that's where the ability to kind of automatically run these evaluations gets really helpful and useful. And you can make sure that just because you've made it better at responding to one use case doesn't make it worse at responding to another one. Great. Another piece on the observability, which is like a level of granularity above the evaluation, I suppose, is the audit logging. And in Retool, one of the benefits that you get when you build your agents is that every single response, tool call, action is automatically logged, and there's no kind of setup that you need to do on your end. So you can be sure that you'll always have that kind of observability and access into how your agent is behaving and historically, what it has done and why. So let me check why that eval failed actually. Superstore. Because I provided the wrong expected parameter. I actually, of course, if it's providing customer feedback, it's going to fetch the customer feedback table. And I said that it should be fetching the Superstore orders table. So that's actually my mistake. So if I add another evaluation and put in the correct parameter, which is the customer feedback table, and then run that data set again, I should actually get like a 50% success rate, right? Because the one evaluation should pass and one should fail. There we go. And then, of course, you can drill down and see exactly which one passed and which one failed. Great. On that observability piece, kind of the highest level of monitoring and maybe something that's of more interest to some of like the Retool administrators on the call is this ability to have basically a 360-degree view of all your different agents. So I come to this top level monitoring tab that you might be able to see on the left here. You are in a permission group that will probably only allow you to see the agents you can see, but since I'm an admin, I can see everybody's agents. And I can see this nice graph of the different tools that they have access to. And if I drill down on a specific agent, for example, the original one, I can see how often it's run, how often it's called certain tools. And I can see actually in real time how much I'm spending on this agent. What I think is really valuable from a business standpoint and how we're looking to kind of automate increase productivity is that you can actually map exactly the amount of time that your agent has been running for against the amount you've spent on this agent. So it looks like we selected a particularly expensive model for this agent specifically. So I do see a question about integrating the agents into the Retool app. So that is the last piece that I want to show you how to do. So I'll just show you how I did it in my app that I showed at the beginning of the session. So I have this modal that has the agent chat component, which is a new component that you can find in our library of components. When you drag this chat in, it's actually going to automatically create this kind of seamless integration with a Retool agent. And from here, I can drop from the drop down, specify which agent I want to be integrated into this application. In this case, and maybe if I show an example again, maybe this time some positive feedback. This chat is going to look exactly like the chat that you see in the agent builder. Now, if you don't actually want your end user to be able to see all the different reasoning steps and tools that the agent might call, you can also just poll it via kind of an API, right? And just return the final response to the end user. Equally, since the agent can be triggered from a workflow, let's say, you could just add it as an event handler to a button. So if I have a button that says, like, have an agent analyze this information, I would then call it from within a workflow. And hopefully a lot of you are familiar with how you can directly integrate a workflow into an app as well in a very similar fashion. Great. So that is all I had planned to show today. I'd like to take 5 minutes or so just to go through some of your questions. And if I stop sharing my screen. I see. Yeah, so let me actually, some of you are interested about that polling the agent. We actually have documentation on this that I'm just gonna drop in the chat. And there's a code snippet in there that does that polling for you. And of course, if there are some use cases that people have in mind, we're happy to kind of have more specific deep dives and explorations of what that might look like in an application. I see a question from Jürgen about the costs. So there are actually two ways that you can do this. If you are bringing your own key, then, for example, if I'm bringing an OpenAI key, I can assign a specific key for Retool AI, and then I can put in my limitations on the OpenAI side. Or if you're self-hosted, there should be an environment variable that allows you to put in some limits as well. Although I would recommend for best practices that you have that limitation set up on the API side. So whether that be Anthropic, OpenAI, etc. Yes, Gemini models are supported as well. I will also drop some documentation on which models are supported. And that table should also show you which ones are available for just like traditional Retool AI and which ones are available for agents. The main distinction being effectively if that model has the tool calling capabilities. And so it looks like Amar has been doing a great job in answering. I do see a question of if you have access to the agent. I'm not gonna like kick any of you off this environment, so feel free to keep playing around on it. I will just call out that, you know, please don't give it access to any of your kind of data integrations or yeah, anything you don't want anyone else on the call to have access to. Great. Well, if that's everything for now. I'm gonna hand back to Elliot to wrap us up, and I would love to just share. We are making these webinars kind of a regular series, and I'll just put up a QR code for the next webinar, which Amar is going to be presenting. If you would like to sign up for that, please do scan the QR code. Otherwise, kind of emails will go out as well. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you, Nathan. I hope you all enjoyed the session. I hope you found it valuable. I hope you learned something. I hope you got a bit inspired about all the things you might be able to do with Retool agents. Please do scan the QR code. We are going to make, like Nathan said, this a regular series of webinars, most likely happening monthly. This next one that you'll find on the QR code is on August 12th at the same time as today's one. So roughly a month from today. And yes, the topic will be how to build an AI-powered product insight suite in Retool. So Amar, who's been helping you out today with your questions and issues, is going to be running that session. And he'll be showing you, how to put together data visualization dashboards and how to analyze data with AI and kind of give access to your business knowledge bases with agentic experiences. So that one's going to be excellent. I hope to see you all there. Please do scan the QR code, and we'll be sending out more information about that one nearer the time. That just leaves me to say thank you once again, everybody, for joining. I think this was a great session, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. If there were any questions that you asked that we didn't get to, we will be reviewing all of those, and we will send out answers after the session. So thank you, and have a great day.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.